Mikel Arteta expresses outrage at full-time, upset with the Premier League, and rightfully so. We need to have it changed. It is totally unfair that goals are what win the game. This is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. My name is Elliot Smith, the Black Man, Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Yeah, that's right. I mean, Tim has said this. Goals are overrated. And I think what we saw against Liverpool is that they are overrated, and that any other metric you could use to decide the winner of the game should have been used in this game. But no, stodgy old Premier League. They used goals, and we did lose 2-0, despite a performance that I think continues to point true north, point up in terms of direction of travel for this team. You may feel differently. I know it is hard to, if you're the kind of person who hates to lose, and let's face it, we all hate to lose, it can be hard to hear the positives, take the positives when we lose. But I can't help but feel fairly upbeat about what we saw. I think there are things that we can all point to quite clearly as, what went wrong. Most of them are me. I think I am the problem with Arsenal at the moment. But I do want to say thank you for being here. We love you. The conversation around this team is getting really, really enjoyable as the team gets better. And on a night like this, when we get knocked a little bit, it's so fun to interact with people and see really good, thoughtful opinions about what we can do better, what we did well. So thank you for that. Really lovely, and just appreciate you. But not just you. I appreciate Paul. I mean, a bit. He's on Twitter at Pause My Pants. Hello, Pause.
Woohoo.
And I definitely appreciate Tim. He's on Twitter at Stoberto. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
And I certainly appreciate Clive. He's on Twitter at ClivePFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Hello, indeed. Yeah, so Mikel complaining about the fixture congestion and journalists soiling themselves over that. I saw Tim, as he does, defending the badge, defending the Arsenal, when one journalist in particular said it's rich of Arsenal to complain about this with no Europe and having had 9 games canceled in January. And Tim, I liked your reply. 1 is quite a bit less than 9, correct? Have I done that right?
Facts, yeah.
Yeah, 1, quite a bit less than 9. So lots of news and podcast stuff to announce down the road, but I sort of want to dive into it today. And I think, we do these pre-match live streams. Some people say they're jinxes. We have broken that jinx. We have won quite a bit since doing those pre-match live streams. We get so much wrong in them, but in this game, I feel like everything you kind of thought about this game played out the way you expected in some ways, which is that the threat was going to be in behind Alexander-Arnold for us, that the threat for them was going to be in behind Cedric or attacking that side, and that it was Liverpool's ability to convert the tiny half chances, the one little mistake, in such a ruthless way that could be the decider. And that feels like what happened here. Tim, Arteta said something at full time that I just completely agree with, and I don't think I'm a sycophant when it comes to Mikel Arteta, but he said from box to box, I thought we were maybe the better team, but unfortunately, these games are won in the boxes. Mm-hmm. And it made me think, big games so often wind up being about 1 or 2 moments. The smaller games, the weaker teams, you batter them, you get a ton of chances, you take a few, you miss a few, whatever. There's more margin for error. But in these big games at the absolute highest level, it's one moment. It's a near post shot that sneaks in versus a curled shot that goes wide of the post. And I totally agree with Arteta. From box to box, we were the equal or better than Liverpool for large stretches. But in the box, we saw just our little lack of that exceptional quality versus theirs. And that was the difference in my view.
Yeah, 100% it was. And let's put it in like no uncertain terms. And it's going to sound brutal and harsh, and it's not intended that way. It's just, this is how I saw it. Basically, Ødegaard gets a great chance. Alisson makes a world-class save, and that is a world-class save. I don't think it's a bad finish. You can tell usually by what happens in a stadium, and the first thing that came out of my mouth involuntarily was, fuck me, what a save. Like, brilliant save.
And can I add something to that just real quick?
Sure.
I think the shuffle he does to keep Lacazette from being able to round him before that is also sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got that. And then, frankly, Jota goes through and our goalkeeper doesn't cover himself in glory. Now, I don't want to kill Ramsdale for that, because I think that is genuinely the first time this season that I've looked at a goal and gone, like, not to say Ramsdale has been faultless on every goal, but that's the first time I've gone, oh, that's kind of your fault. And again, the whole move isn't his fault, but that's kind of one where I was like, oh, you really should have saved that actually. So you've got like one world-class intervention from one goalkeeper, a mistake from the other goalkeeper, and then you've got this other, I guess, series of incidents where the ball through to Jota for the first goal from Thiago is outstanding. It's such a good pass, the way he stabs that through the lines, and we've seen Thiago, Lord knows Thiago can do that. And Jota accepts the gift and goes through on goal and puts it in. a couple of minutes earlier, Martinelli took a quick free kick in exactly the same position. It was exactly the same pass to Lacazette, and Lacazette watched it go by, because Lacazette's intent is not, oh my God, I'm throwing goal. Oh my God. Like he doesn't want to face the goal. The reason he didn't collect it is because he was rocking on his heels, because he keeps thinking, how do I get this with my back to goal and give it to someone else? And that's kind of what happens with the Odegaard chance as well. But like, I do agree with you, Elliot. I do think that's also a very good bit of goalkeeping from Alisson. And then you've got Robertson gets to the byline for Liverpool. Where's Firmino? Right on the front stick, between defenders, attacking it, looking to score. Martinelli gets to the byline, exactly the same position as Robertson. Where's Lacazette? He's not within the width of the posts. He's hiding behind a centre-back. And even if he can get the ball, like, he's facing the wrong way. And again, it's not to kill Lacazette and Ramsdale. It's just that was the difference on the night. It could easily have gone the other way. Like, Jota,
and that's the story of big games. I mean, it really is, right? I mean, like the United Spurs game, like neither team was very good, but Cristiano Ronaldo scores 3 goals.
Yeah.
And that's it, you know?
It could easily be the other way around. Jota could be rocking on his heels when Thiago puts that ball through. He's not. Ramsdale could save it. He doesn't. Odegaard, like Alisson could go down early and Odegaard could lob him. He didn't. Lacazette can be on the 6-yard line looking to attack the ball. He's not. Those exact incidents, like, that is exactly where the game was won and lost, and I really think it's that simple on the night.
Yeah, it is. It is the case that this team, I think, has found the level it needs to find in terms of possession, controlling the ball, building play, getting to the attacking third, creating threat. But in terms of turning that threat into clear chances and converting that, I think there is still more ceiling here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is one of those nights where the coach can say, I've done my job
Done
here.
my job. Yeah.
I need you to keep them out and put them in. It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast about Brighton today, and like Brighton, in terms of like final third entries, are like 4th in the Premier League because they're so good. Like, their structure's so good. They're so good at building up. But when it comes to like possession turned into shots, they're 11th. So it's a bit like, you can see what Brighton's problem is, right? They're very well coached. They know what they're doing, but they don't have that person at the sharp end of the pitch. And I feel like we're like a luxury Brighton.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, right, if I think about like construction, I said this on the instant reaction, the coach is the architect, right? Does the blueprints and things like that. And then the players are the actual builders, right? They go out there and they put the blueprint in action. The blueprint looks perfect right now. And there's just that little 10%. But Clive, one of the things that's so important with these measuring stick type games, you know, is to measure the distance you've come. Because in an individual game, it can be hard to kind of say, were we better, were we worse? I want to just bring up a game. It's the home game against Liverpool last season, okay? And it was played on April the 3rd. We lost it 3-0. The expected goals were 2.2 to 0.3. We were outshot 16-3. We were outpossessed 64% to 36%. And you fast forward to this game where the XG was much closer to even, but where the possession was much closer to even. Shots were 9-9. We held Liverpool to the second fewest shots they've had all season besides one game against Manchester City. And all the metrics you look at, you see a game that was contested in a very even way. And in some cases, contested in a way where Arsenal were superior, except for on the score sheet. And I get it. There are going to be people that say, oh, is that the only play? Like, I get it. But bear with us here a little bit. Clive, I mean, in terms of the direction of travel and in terms of the distance we've come, I don't think you have to squint. The City game and the Liverpool game, 2 games that maybe next season we win them instead of complaining about the injustice or the missed moments. But I think they both show the distance we've come in terms of where we were previously in these kinds of, in clashes against the best teams.
Yeah, I love this game. I tell you,
You had a good view. You had a good view.
Yeah, I'm concerned, right? Because I love football, but my love for the game is becoming deeper and deeper. I need to go and have a word in myself, right? Because I absolutely loved it. I mean, I walked into this game thinking I knew Liverpool, but I didn't know them. I didn't appreciate what they have and what they do. From an Arsenal perspective, we all know where we're heading. But let's take a look at the opposition for a second, right? So when we talk about Liverpool, we talk about their 4-3-3, we talk about their three forwards. What we don't talk about is their rotation, defensive rotation, how they move from zone to zone, how the number 8s go into fullback, how their fullbacks go high, how they rock that on occasion, one centre mid in, how Thiago drops between the two centre backs and makes it a 3v2, so kills Lacazette and Odegaard from the press. Then they rotate around on the other side. Then they go long. Then they sprint through. Then they come short. I mean, I'm watching this. It was like watching a set of piano keys go up and down. I mean, and we were doing something similar, by the way. We look incredibly modern, incredibly well coached, incredibly well structured. We were reading their moves until we didn't. Do you know what I mean? And in that moment, we got chinned twice. But I walked away thinking, wow, this is fantastic. Okay, Clive, get over yourself. What do we need to do? And I looked at Liverpool and I could not, and Tim, I'm sure he'll agree with me, I couldn't believe their size. I couldn't believe how tall they were, how physical they were, talk about counter-fouling. It didn't get started, just fouling, bang, as soon as you got it. It was incredibly quick and incisive. I mean, I didn't want to book them. Do you know what I mean? It was so well done. Right? So physical, so intense. And then they calmed down. I mean, Van Dijk, I swear he didn't even break into a sprint in the game. I swear he didn't do it. He almost discourages you by saying, go on then. And then you just don't. Because his aura of a 29-year-old was just, but it just transmitted itself. And within this framework, we still had the bravery, composure, the patterns, the coaching, the belief, the speed. We had everything to match them until we didn't. Do you see what I mean? And I think, so for us now, when we're thinking about, what I always do, I think about the next step, the next signings, it did bring a couple of things to mind that weren't there before. We all know the weaknesses in the group, and we all know we need to add some depth. But what type of player profile do we need to add? Is it more intelligence? Is it more pace? Is it more size? I think there's an open debate here, but Liverpool showed exactly how far we've come. Because when we played City, I felt we were playing ourselves. It was a mirror, and it was just wonderful to watch. When you play Liverpool, you're playing like sort of a combination. They got the City, well coached, power, intensity, but they're far more territory driven. They're far more rotational from a defensive point of view, and they're far more direct. And so to see Liverpool is, for me, the measuring stick, because that's what you need to overcome. If you can overcome them, there's no one else we need to deal with. If we can overcome that, we'll be absolutely fine. And that's why I found the game last night so exciting, so exciting.
There was a really interesting tactical battle in this game too, though, Paul. Like, the funny thing is, it's played at such a fast pace and it's so physical. And Liverpool, you look at them and there's this sense that it's just pressing and energy. But like, the tactics by both managers really interesting. There was a chess game here. So like, I was surprised that Mane started on their right, our left, and Diaz on our right, their left. And actually, I thought it did us a favor. Cedric was able to play, I thought, really well in the first half, get into the attacking half. We built good moves up that side, but they also shifted a lot of their energies to shutting down the Odegaard and Saka partnership. And so we got the ball into those zones, but they weren't having any joy playing their 1-2s or getting beyond them. And I thought that was a design by Liverpool, and they were shifting a midfielder over there to help shut that pod down. In the second half, we saw them shift Mane over to the other side. We know what happened over there. Not to mention that they started to slide Henderson forward a little between the lines, and Mane almost had the goal, the offside goal, and it's very offside, but the first time that Henderson really got on the ball between the lines. They're a weird team because they can be very effective without relying on their midfield to do stuff, but the way they tweaked it so that Thiago and Henderson both were able to create chances in the second half was interesting. Sticking with the first half, though, how do you think about that sort of chess match and the fact that they didn't have Mane down our right-hand side, and that allowed us to get forward, but I felt like they put a lot of emphasis into shutting down that route to goal, the Odegaard and Saka partnership, and as a result, they weren't necessarily at their absolute best like we've seen the last couple games.
Yeah, I think that's right. The Robertson interview at the end of the game, he said Saka and Martinelli worked them really hard. And in particular, he pointed out he had to do a lot of defending. Robertson had to.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until really the second half that Robertson got into a position to have some impact at the other end. And in the Thiago goal, it's very significant because I believe it's Robertson's on the touchline, and we all think that's where the ball's going. Thiago's got the ball. He's got Robertson free. Cedric is watching him, ready to cheat and kind of make the dart out there. And that's kind of the problem. We actually have 4 players around Jota who gets the ball. We've 2 midfielders, Partey and Saka ahead of him. And we've got White and Cedric right beside him. But White's watching Mane. And Cedric is standing on Jota, but he's watching Robertson, who's in lots of space. That's where he thinks the ball's going. That's where the ball should be going. Cedric darts, but Thiago's got it spotted, and he zips it up between the two of them. But at that exact moment, Mane sprints inwards, taking White with him. And it's only two yards White goes, because White can see the danger too. And Cedric sees the danger 2 yards after he darts. But now they've left that gap for Jota. And the other thing that they talk about at the end of the game, Thiago talks about it, is hitting the half spaces in the second half. So they were looking basically for this coordinated movement. It's kind of to Clive's point. We were on it till we weren't. We had it in the first half till we didn't. And like that blink of an eye, those coordinated movements from those 2 guys, Jota and Mane, was the thing that kind of opened up the gap. And suddenly Thiago, and all 3 of them know what they're doing at the same moment. Thiago knows it before they've made the runs, but at the exact moment, they all basically split that defense. Just a couple of yards, the ball's up through, and we're kind of undone. And that, to me, difference between the first half and the second half, they definitely blocked Saka as the danger man. They knew about Martinelli, but he got at them time and time again. That ball from Ramsdale or the ball from Partey or Xhaka or combinations with Tierney, that was our side where we had the space, and Saka pulled them towards them. And in many ways, yes, they blocked us on the right side, but that opened them up a little on our left side. And we had a great first half. They would admit that. They did admit we had the upper hand in the first half. Gary Neville believed we had the upper hand in the first half. Coming off with our real mistake in this game was we didn't come in at 1-0, because then that changes that whole dynamic in the second half. You can't have that much success against Liverpool at home and not punish them in the first half.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not going to hold them off for 90 minutes, and being 1-0 down to Liverpool is a bad look.
Yeah, and I think the reality is that like these games, and I said it before, but I really believe it. We are now at the level where we can play these teams, and it's just the big moments. In the City game, the big moments went against us because of the referees. And in this game, the big moments went against us. Maybe just a little bit of that quality to trust yourself. And like I said this on the instant reaction, and maybe it's wrong. There's pressure. Liverpool have lived with the pressure of competing for titles in Champions Leagues for 3-4 seasons now, and their players are 27, 28, 29. And our players have not had that pressure. They've been sitting mid-table, not to rub it in, and they're 20. And so when the key moment comes, Martinelli curls it just outside the far post. When the key moment comes, the Odegaard Saka 1-2 isn't quite where it should be, because we haven't been living with the pressure of these big moments. In most of these big games in the previous years, we just were blown away. We weren't on the pitch with them. Now we're on the pitch and we're playing them even. And this is great preparation, because the big moments are going to come and we're going to need to make the most of them. And I don't want to over-index that, because that comes with time. I think you can use age as an excuse and experience as an excuse, but I do think it is a part of the process. And Tim, I don't want to go on any further without talking about what I think was, the story of the first half, and that's Gabriel Martinelli.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever really made my opinions known about the player, but quietly, secretly, where I don't express it, I have been a fan.
Yeah. Same.
I don't know why there's some holdouts on Martinelli. I don't know if it's genuine doubt. I don't know if it's because, let's face it, there's another very popular young academy player that he's kind of keeping out of the side right now, who is also very good and deserves to play and had a great cameo. I think it's easy to forget. This guy breaks onto the scene by scoring an end-to-end goal down to 10 men against Chelsea, and then misses a year at a critical developmental period with a meniscus tear. But like, since he's come into the side, we've been better. And if you want to say he hasn't always been great, there's a straight line you can draw between Martinelli becoming a starter and Arsenal becoming a fantastic team. Now, I'm not saying that's all him, not remotely, but I don't think you can deny the link. In this game, it was sort of another star turn, and I'm disappointed for him that the cutback from the byline didn't get tapped in, or the curled shot didn't go in, because I think he deserved a little end product for the performance. But in terms of what he offers us if we get to be, back in Europe and things like that, because I think Saka and Odegaard's a great path to breaking down those low blocks. But in games against teams that will come at you more, or where there's a little more space, I think what we see is that Martinelli is a unique weapon in these kinds of contests.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's exactly why we saw that. I mean, essentially what Liverpool were able to do, they really concentrated on Saka and Odegaard, which is a great compliment to both of them. But again, the reality is that's because they were kind of fine leaving Lacazette alone. And again, that's just a brutal reality. But Martinelli, yeah, you're right. When you're kind of playing on the counter, broken play, because he can beat players, and when there's space to work in. And I said on the last pod, I think he's gotten so good at going on the outside of his man and beating his man. And, I've been saying on this podcast for ages since he arrived that there's a dribbler in this player. We hadn't really seen it yet, and it doesn't always look aesthetically like, it's not Ronaldinho-esque dribbling, but he can get the ball from A to B by hook or by crook. And actually sometimes it kind of is. There was some nice, very deliberate nutmeg on Jordan Henderson. Everything about that move was thought out, right through to him putting his foot on the ball and facing away from the goal. That was all in mind of, I'm going to nutmeg you, but to like, the nutmeg relies on the element of surprise. So I'm just going to play dead for a minute. I'm going to play possum for a second, make you think I'm going to go backwards. And then when you relax, bang, I'm gone. And that's, a lot more thought goes into that than I think people realize. But he was, again, sensational. I think maybe one of the reasons people are slightly more lukewarm on him than perhaps you or I are, Elliot, I think it's just a question of taste, because Martinelli, he's a volume player. He's like Sanchez, right? I was looking at I wrote something about him today, so I was looking at his data. And so I was looking at his data, and like his passing completion rate's at like 70%, and I'm sure that's probably the lowest of anyone who starts regularly. And it's that old Sanchez thing again, isn't it? What do you want? Do you want a guy that passes the ball at a 90% clip, or do you want the guy who maybe loses the ball trying things? And so, but also a lot of the things I kind of looked at, his number of pressures are down, but he's winning the ball back more often. And I know pressing isn't just about winning the ball back. It's kind of about manipulating your opponent as well. But his number of shots have gone down, but he's scoring more. So like you can see that with a bit of rhythm and a bit of game time, that he's beginning to be more selective, which is something Arteta's spoken about. And I think really the step for him that I saw him take forward last night is, do you remember that comment from Arteta a couple of months ago after he scored against West Ham, where he said something like he still tries to play at 100 miles an hour all the time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like now he's picking his moments more. But I also think that what Arteta really wants is for each player to dominate their zone, their little zone on the pitch. I think that's like a big part of positional play. Whereas Martinelli was, and this isn't a criticism really, like he was all over the place in terms of he was everywhere. And I think what Arteta's trying to coach him is, I want you on the left being like explosive, but only when the ball comes to the left. I don't need you running over to the centre of the pitch and chasing people. Like we've got someone who's going to press, like Odegaard will press in the centre, like stay there. And I think the other thing that he's really beginning to get now is when and he's not quite there yet, but when to stay wide and when to come in. And now we know he can beat his fullback. So we know he can go out to that touchline, receive the ball and take on the fullback, and that's like some of the gears I think he's beginning to find in his game. Because when you look at other inside forwards Arteta's worked with, Sterling, Sane, that's what they were like. They were like Sterling knew when to beat his fullback on the touchline and then when to be in the 6-yard box ready for a cutback or something like that. And I think that's where we're seeing Martinelli develop now, and it's really, really great to see. But in principle, yeah, I agree with you. This game probably suited him more than, say, Watford did, albeit against Watford. What does he do? He comes inside at the right moment and scores the winning goal from outside the box. And that's how you judge him, really, on what he does in the last kind of 25 yards of the pitch. And he was our best player, I think, by some distance.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's interesting, right? Because there are some games where I find myself a little frustrated that he doesn't have someone to spark off of in that left-hand channel the same way that like Odegaard and Saka have each other. But there's some design there too, I think, because he's a player that I think if you get him into space and don't bring defenders over to him, you see no one can live with him. He's got, I don't know if he's as pacey as like a Theo was, certainly not, but like over his first 4 or 5 steps, his burst is outrageous. And, Liverpool did in the second half bring a second player over to him, and he kind of ran out of steam a little bit because it just became more, running down blind alleys. But sometimes you get a player evaluation wrong too, because I think there's a sense that he's not technically quite as good. And then there's that moment in the middle of the pitch. He sort of carries it into midfield and he's under immense pressure. There's 3 guys around. And he just pirouettes and twirls and twists and touches and twists. And finally, I think slides it back to Tierney and gets a huge ovation. But like, he's real good in tight spot and he's real strong. Ramsdale's going to come in for some criticism, sure. Some of his passing in this game was amazing. He just missed Saka with the long ball. That was one of the best I've ever seen. But he hit Martinelli time and time again up the left. And Martinelli has the strength to hold a man off. Both Saka and Martinelli just look bigger and stronger. And they're becoming men for this league in a way that maybe they weren't just a season ago. Clive, I don't want to shut you out of the Martinelli conversation because I just think, when a young player like this, it's easy to forget, 20 years old. We say it with Saka, we should say it with Martinelli. When a player like this shines in a big spot like this, and I am sick to death of Klopp praising him, just shut up, Klopp. We get it. I sort of wonder, how bright the future can be because you've got small space connecting player in Saka and Odegaard who can pick the passes, find the final ball, and then you've got this sort of explosive end product guy in Martinelli. The balance is beautiful, but I'm curious if, watching from the beautiful seats that you had, if you could see, how he was able to exploit Trent Alexander-Arnold because he had him on toast all night.
Yeah, I thought Arsenal switched to play really, really nicely. And this is where they were really intelligent. When they progressed the ball through midfield, they had opportunities to switch and they had players that could do it. Xhaka did one. They were just switching from side to side. So if everything tilted over to Martinelli's side, they switched over to Saka. Liverpool are very good at travelling, shuffling across. Henderson did really well to try to help out Trent. On occasions, he got a bit high and left him one-on-one. And when he did, Martinelli went straight through. So he's very quick. I love how he... I love his aggressive intent. So he sees the space around you. And he's got different ways to attack it. I love players that say their whole body language says, I'm going around you, behind you. And everything I'm doing is saying to you, that's where I'm going. So I'm running at you first to fix you. Now what am I going to do? And I just thought he did it really, really well. I thought Trent tried really hard. He's just not very good at backward shuffling and showing people one side. He's just not very good at it. And that's why they doubled up. But, there is still a gap for these young 20-year-olds to go. Shock. They're not fully developed yet. And it was very apparent to me watching that game when there was a group of 29-year-olds and a group of 20-year-olds. And I'm afraid some of the 29-year-olds they have are very, very good. And you can't close that gap until Mother Nature takes over. There are just some things you can't do consistently every 3 or 4 days. Liverpool have that experience. They have that wisdom. They have that economy, in their game. I even talked about Liverpool as a high pressing team, all the rest of it. But I saw many a time them just walking around, taking it cool, slowing the tempo, and not just basically going a million miles an hour like they did probably 3-4 years ago. I thought it looked really good. And I thought we learned something from them. And that's the most important thing. We must learn something from this. And, I think these players will. I hope it doesn't drain them of anything. I didn't think it drained the crowd. I felt the crowd were okay, accepting, but okay, while knowing the next time we enter a football pitch is very important.
I thought the support right to full time and even after full time was sensational. I mean, singing the whole time.
Yeah, well, it's been like this way for a while, and it was good. But, I'll be well, maybe it's just me I'm talking for. I'm watching it thinking, I hope we got some legs left for Saturday. That's the most important thing. I felt the substitutions were earmarked for Saturday, in my own opinion. But there's still a step, Elliot. Despite the promise, I'm telling you, mate, man on man, body on body, we got a little way to go, and the additions are going to have to close it. Because your first thing you said about the combination play on the left-hand side, I thought Tierney was excellent, but he needs something else in a centre-forward position. He needs connections. He can't be a lone soldier just running around people and having no one to pass to. That can't happen.
You know what really, there were just a couple of moments, Paul, you can come in here too, but just a couple of moments that bothered me with the Lacazette Martinelli thing in particular, because there's the one where he gets to the byline, the nutmeg byline, Tim mentioned it, right? He slides it across the corridor of uncertainty and Lacazette's marking himself behind the nearest defender. I don't know if he could do better on the error where it's given to him in the box. And I do think Alisson does a great job to follow him, so we can't round him. But the one that really did kind of annoy me is the really smart, quick taken free kick by Martinelli, where Lacazette's just not on it. You know what I'm talking about? It's a quick free kick. He slides it through. Lacazette is there. I mean, any striker that wants to score goals should absolutely be eating that up and totally on the same wavelength. And I just think, Paul, that maybe there is no question in my mind that the good football we are playing owes a lot to what Lacazette is doing, but the balance of how much he is willing to just not see himself as a goal scorer is maybe off a little bit. And in terms of some of the near post runs that we're missing or not being alive on that free kick, it's just, and I know Tim compared it with what Firmino does to get to the near post for his goal, but you know what I mean? Because those are combinations that I think something should have come from them. And maybe Lacazette's a little too prepared to just be a facilitator now. Now, the other thing I will point out is he is a guy who earlier in the season we questioned his fitness, and his fitness levels have been beyond question lately. But this is the first time we've had to play a couple games in a few days. And maybe he's feeling the effects because it's also a very, very physically testing game when you play Liverpool. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I mean, that was a disappointment, I thought.
Yeah, look, Lacazette's so important with our patterns of play up to and into the box, but he's never had that role, I don't think, where his job is just ruthless striker. Not at Arsenal, not before at Lyon, unless I'm remembering that wrong, but he was very much part of an attacking two. He's a technical player. He builds, creates. He's got good technical precision when he's got his shooting boots and he's in form within the box. But they're always clever shots. They're like he doesn't get the cheap, gritty, beat everybody to the ball. He's not a header of balls. You don't have to be 6'4" to be winning headers in the box. That's not his game. He's good at getting in there, mixing it, flopping, diving, being physical, etc. But the actual being a ruthless killer to get his toe on the ball, what we saw from Firmino or a Jota or whatever, just getting pole position in the most aggressive and kind of deadly spots in the box, not his A game. But it's, you're up against Matip and VVD. They're really good at blocking you from those spots. So unless you got something a little extra, you don't find yourself in those spots. It's definitely the opportunity for us in the next season to go to a new level because we don't have that guy who makes that run. That was Aubameyang. That was his role within the team. And that just didn't quite happen for us over the last 6-12 months. But what does Aubameyang really bring? He brings popping up in the right spot at the right moment and a lot less of the other stuff. Of course, we're looking for the striker who can do it all, help with the build-up play and be the guy who gets the run to the near side post, pipping the defender. In this game, look, we nearly did it with Lacazette, and like I think we'd all want to say, like, let's not be ungrateful to the guy. He's been absolutely instrumental in how we play and in this good football, and in the fact that we should have been 1-0 up in the first half, you might say. You could certainly argue we were in the frame for being 1-0 up. Tremendous credit to him. On the other hand, he lacks the out-and-out killer striker instinct, and we need that in the box because Martinelli, Saka, like, we want goals from wide, and Martinelli may turn into that killer over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and Saka may. At the moment, they're just very good creators and goal scorers. We still need a killer somewhere in the team.
I mean, I agree with you, and I think it's the reason I singled out the quick free kick one is that
shark in the water. It's instinct, right?
Yeah. That's where you show that you want to score a goal. You know what I mean?
You look at Jota's run for the Thiago goal. It's just like it's absolute. What is it? Chum in the water for a shark. He's fucking gone. That's it. He's gone.
Yeah. I mean, and like it's funny, right? Because on the one hand, I think we are in a situation with this team where the players who we might regard as maybe being upgradable are still doing very important, valuable things for the team. So there's a sense of not wanting to like pile on to them, which we certainly shouldn't do, because they're doing valuable things for the team. And yet there's little moments like that, Tim, right? Where you look and like I look at that first half and I feel I hate the word deserve because you don't deserve anything in football, right? But the play deserved more.
We left money on the table, right?
Yeah, and you know where that missing final moment is. It's it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, essentially, my big takeaway from this game is that we didn't really learn anything from this game. I mean, to Clive's point, there's plenty for the players to learn, but I mean, the rest of us, we learned that Liverpool are excellent and Arsenal are good. That's what we learned, and so we're looking at how do we get to excellent. And look at Liverpool's own journey. They didn't get there overnight. It took them a little while. They had some crazy topsy-turvy games with us. I mean, you might remember that 3-3 in 2017 where they were 2-0 up and then they were 3-2 down, 3-3. Last night, again, to Clive's point about that kind of just that muscle memory they've got. As soon as they went 1-0 up, like you just sense they had their palms firmly on our forehead and we were kicking away and we couldn't reach them. And you just sometimes you just feel things when you watch a game. And as soon as they went 1-0 up, I was like, right, yeah, they're in control. Now they know how to see this out. Like I never really harbored any realistic ambition of a comeback at that point. At that point, I was just like, I just kind of hope Liverpool shake hands on this and don't decide to win 3 or 4-0. That was my biggest concern for the last 20 minutes was we don't deserve a shoeing here. Let's not get one. But yeah,
and I don't think either team was up for that, right? I think we sort of lost the hunger for the fight a little, and I think Liverpool kind of knew it was job done.
Saturday. Yeah, we turned to Saturday. They've got loads of games. They're still in the Champions League. Like it was in no one's interests really. It was.
I think the subs showed that too, by the way, and it was really good. I thought intelligent game management because. Yep. Playing well and losing to Liverpool is not a big deal unless you get a red card, you get an injury, you're too fatigued, and then you also lose to Villa as a result of it,
Yeah, and I think I said that on the pod last week, right? Let's not kill ourselves losing this game so that we end up dropping points to Villa, and obviously that could still happen. But we all know where we need to get better. We all know we haven't got like terrible pieces in this team anymore. We've got like Xhaka's doing fine in the left 8 role. He's not doing anything wrong. Lacazette, I mean, I wouldn't go as far to say not doing anything wrong. There are things he's doing wrong, and I do think as much as I think we all know the deal with Lacazette, and we all know it's coming to an end and everything. So it's not much of a talking point. But like if I were Arteta, I would be saying, look. I'm not ready to just shake hands on you doing this. Like, you're still our player. I still want to improve you before the end of the season. And you cannot just think that your role is to set up goals now. Like, that's not how it works. We need you to score goals as well. I need you to feel the pressure to score as well as to create. You're doing the creative thing. Like, you're doing great, honey. On all of that, that's all good.
Nice job, sweetie. You're doing great.
But when Martinelli slides you through on goal, don't miss it because you're ready to turn backwards, thinking about how you're going to cushion the ball backward. Like, you've got to vary your game a bit. You cannot just think, this is my game and that's it. Nothing else is my responsibility anymore. So,
Yeah.
and that's like, again, I don't mean that to be like really, really harsh. I'm sure that's the conversation that players and coaches have. I'm sure that Arteta or a member of his coaching staff is clipping that stuff up and saying, look, you would have been through on goal here. You've got to, like, sometimes you've got to be on the half turn. Like, that is kind of your job as well. You can't just go, oh no, that's not my job anymore. Like, you've got to be sharper in those situations, and you can't change people, but that doesn't mean that you can't improve things. Like, again, like it's happening with the younger players, right? Like Martinelli, talking about getting better at beating his fullback and things like that. That wasn't in his game until recently, and that's because it was worked on. And just because you're 30 years old, it doesn't mean that you can't add those edges to your game. And yeah, he is what he is, and we have what we hold until the summer. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be kind of a bit more encouragement, I'd call it, behind the scenes.
Well, and I think you can say this. He is very important to a lot of the ways we play, but at the moment that you say he's not going to turn and face goal, he's not going to make a run behind, or he's not going to, get to the near post or whatever, then you're making an argument to the coach like, why shouldn't I play a Smith Rowe at false nine, right? Why can't I play another? Because if you're just connective tissue, are you the best connective tissue?
Yeah,
maybe you are.
I've got another player that can do that, who, by the way, scored more goals than you this season.
Yeah,
and really, again, the brutal truth is, Van Dijk, Matip, they left him alone, and they went and swarmed Saka and Ødegaard. And again, it's not nice for a player to face up to, and it's probably a message you've got to deliver delicately. But there is an element, and he'll know that. By the way, you know that when you're on a pitch when someone's not worried about you. And that's got to be an element of pride as well. And
it's a shame too, right? Because you won't find another Arsenal player working any harder. You won't find another Arsenal player, giving as much for the system. So I think that is important. But like, look, if you know there's an area you can clean up or you can improve, you do it. And look, a great example is you may be a wonderful human being. And maybe, just maybe, you could clean up your privates a little bit. And that's an area you can improve. And if you're not doing it, maybe someone else is going to take your place in the team. Someone else who's got nicer shaved privates, who's cleaned that area up. Do you want to lose your spot for something as simple as not having the right product? That's a silly reason to get dropped. Don't get dropped. Get the privates in shape. Go to the manager, drop your pants and say, look what I've done. I deserve my place. And the way to do it's with the Lawnmower 4.0. It is the finest purpose-built trimmer I have ever used. And here's the thing, right? We joke around about it, but like, this is the thing you do. You trim your privates, you groom your body. So then you say, all right, what tool do I use to do that? I mean, I assume you're not using a Flowbee, right? I assume you're not using like shears, a box cutter. What are you using? Well, this thing has a long battery life. It works in the shower. It's got a bright LED light. It has ceramic blades with skin-safe technology designed not just for skin, but loose skin. Because there are areas down there that may be a bit loose that you do not want to trim. You want to trim the hair, not the skin. It has a button lock. It has induction charging. It's great. And then when you order, you can also get There are other great products. They got a body wash. They got a great shampoo and conditioner with great scents. They got vegan cologne that, it's humane and all that good stuff that we love and care about. Comes with a Shed travel bag. So you can get the performance package if you want. You can get the Lawnmower 4.0. But the great news is when you use promo code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com, you save 20% and get free worldwide shipping. Manscaped.com, promo code ArsenalVision, free worldwide shipping and 20% off. That's manscaped.com, promo code ArsenalVision, 20% off, free worldwide shipping. And you won't get dropped for having too many pubes, he says, biting his tongue. Now, the other reason you won't get dropped is because you're the best. And the reason you're the best is because they used Indeed to hire you. But if you don't have the best and you need to hire, you need Indeed. Because Indeed is the only hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. The only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applicants that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Indeed. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites, which sucks, God, does it suck, hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description. So you get exactly what you need. Then you can invite them to apply right away, and you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Seems like an obvious thing, but not everyone does it. I love this. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. Wow. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire to claim your $75 job credit before March 31st. Indeed.com. Nope. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. Clive's not enough of that.
Indeed.
Nailed it. Clive. I can think of players that improve. I can think of players that improve like Saka. I can think of players that improve like Odegaard. I can think of players that improve like Martinelli. But I cannot think of a player who I have seen improve so much, not to say that he wasn't good, but my goodness, at 28 years old, where the hell he is, Thomas Partey is incredible. And on a pitch with a lot of talented players who have won the European Championship and won the Premier League, he's the best player in the center of that pitch. Arteta gives him the whole center of the pitch. He can do it against Watford. He can do it against Liverpool. They can't take the ball off him. They can't beat him. He plays the right pass. He's progressive. He's clever. He's physical, but he's technical. He has just grown into such an extraordinarily important piece of what we do. I think as great and eye-catching as Martinelli was, you could make an argument for Thomas Partey being the man of the match, because you're talking about operating in an area that Liverpool are uniquely good at dominating. And he dominated it, I don't want to say all on his own. It's not like it wasn't a team performance, but my goodness, did he do it so well. And I think, I've invoked Aaron Ramsey here before, where there are some players that need a run in the side to hit their best level. And I think the combination of the role Arteta has given a Partey and the fact that he's staying fit now and getting to play game in, game out, we're really seeing all the promise be realized. I thought this was a sensational game from Partey. And I'm curious, from your vantage point, if there was anything you saw him doing that really jumped out at you in particular, because he has that knack for understanding when he can afford to take an extra touch or a turn or a trick versus when he has to play it safe. Some midfielders, it's a wall pass right back to the defender. Some midfielders turn into trouble or get it taken from him. He just seems to have such a good, intelligent read of the game for when to do what.
Yeah, he leapt out off the pitch to me. I thought what he's doing, if you look at Arsenal, I've been saying for a little while that we play a diamond, in my opinion, right? So that diamond expands and contracts. So Lacazette squeezes in, Odegaard starts wide, squeezes off the side, or stays wide, depending on where we're building up. We're building up from fullback, he stays out there, creates a wide triangle. If Partey has the ball, he squeezes in, and Xhaka does that up to a point. He squeezes in and closer to create a little bounce pass and gets the next pass out, second phase. So there's a cohesion there to how we play in central areas, and it's very, very good. It's really good. But Partey's the one that fixes the problems for me. So if something goes wrong in our movement, the timing's wrong, and he has to hold it for another 2 seconds till the lane appears, he can do it and keep it. So if a line's blocked, he can shape it, move it, step someone, and then still find the pass. And I think Liverpool had a few of those players, and we had one that really stood out in the middle of the pitch, and I thought he was the equal of any of their central midfielders. In fact, the respect they paid him grew during the game. I will say, I thought at the start of the game he looked a little bit injured, and I started to really worry. He does sort of.
I was worried he was injured at the end of the game.
Yeah, I didn't catch that bit, but I watched his space, because there was Ben White was pulling his hamstring a little bit, and Partey. And this is what I said last night in the instant reaction. 3 games, 6 days. This is us. This is what we want to be next year, and we can't be it with the same 11. No matter how painful it is, right now we have to be thinking about what Thomas Partey come off the pitch in some games. We have to at the moment. None of us want that. But we have to think about it. And we have to make sure we have those backfields in place. To see Firmino and Salah come on the bench last night was quite depressing at 1-0, and we're bringing on Eddie, etc. And again, we love Eddie, but we know the drill. We got a step to go there, right? So so for me, I think we ask a lot more of him than Liverpool asked Fabinho, for example. They ask him to be positionally correct, to be there, to be a release. They don't ask him to have as many touches that are complex. They build up in different ways. They ask him to make sure that no one passes primary job. If my centre-backs are balled out to the touchline, you just drop right in the middle there defensively. If you just go and kick someone, do it in a way where you look innocent and so you don't get booked. Unlike Granit Xhaka, historically it has happened. He's not been able to master that in the same way. And so very cute watching him. But for me, Partey, in that role, the way he's playing it, I've said this before, if you look around the league, the way he's playing that role and our dependency upon him and how we overburden him, I think he's playing it as well as anybody else in the league. And just 3 months ago, people were saying, I hope he goes to the African nations because it makes us stronger. And that's how football can change so quickly, people's opinions, So, but stay consistent. For me, he's a top player that just needs to be fit consistently. And once he's found his fitness and his role, he's found his form.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, right, like one of the things that's unfortunate about sort of our internet culture, and look, it's just the reality, right? If you put your thoughts out there and they wind up being wrong, people are going to come back and say, haha, they're wrong. And like, it is the case that once you've expressed an opinion about a player being good or not good, if they wind up being the opposite, you're going to hear about it a lot. And like, I just like being able to come on this pod and say, I am absolutely infatuated with what Thomas Partey is doing. And Paul, I would say like, I think you have to go back to Santi Cazorla to see a time when Arsenal could boss a midfield because of the quality of one player. I mean, midfield has been a persistent, really catastrophic issue for Arsenal for a while. We don't win the title, the Leicester season, because of the midfield, right? We fall out of the Champions League places because, in my view, because of midfield. And what Thomas Partey is doing now has allowed us to move the whole thing up the pitch. Your toothpaste thing noted. You don't have to say it. And do it with one, and do it with one guy who's really handling the load. And so I think, when we went and spent the money on him, the idea was for this to make sense, age curve, taps the mug, right? Squad building, taps the mug. He had to sort of solve the midfield issues for us. And guess what? It's exactly what he's doing. He was the best player on that pitch. I can't think of a team he wouldn't improve with what he's doing right now. And so, Paul, I just think when you look at midfield and Arsenal's challenges in that area for so long, man, he has really, really opened the door to the players that we want to feature, the Odegaards, the Sakas, the Martinellis, to be where they need to be to hurt the opposition. And so I don't think we can speak highly enough. And in this game, some of the touches under pressure and some of the decision-making, because it's one thing to do it when you're not being put under pressure, but he was an immense pressure, and man, he nailed it.
Yeah, he's been brilliant, and I agree with. We talked about this a little bit on the pod yesterday. Like he's in an elite group of midfielders in this league, and Clive referenced this. Like he's right there. He's in the top couple of midfielders you can pin your midfield on. Like, you can't play this football we're playing as front-loaded, as front-footed as we are now without a Thomas Partey in your midfield. There's only a couple of other guys. I started the exercise yesterday live of who else is in that elite group. Like, you have your Fabinhos, maybe Rodri, but I don't know. Like, he's got Man City around him. That sure lightens the load in terms of the pressure on one guy. Declan Rice, I don't know if he's brilliant. He's at that level. Can he do everything Partey can do? I don't know. But can Partey do everything Rice can do?
And Rice is going to be 100 million for United or something in the summer. That's the level he's at,
Yeah. But that's it. You're down to who are the 2-3 guys who can hold a midfield. Is never single-handed, but in a sense allow you to front load so much that it feels like the guy's doing it single-handed. Now he has a quick bit of credit to me old mate Xhaka. he's pretty generous as a midfield partner. And I think we saw this right from the get-go. Like, he's okay with Partey being the guy and him taking this other role. And like, so there are other things going on in midfield, and the work rate that Odegaard does dropping in and helping out and our defending from the front all makes this possible. This isn't a one-man show at the end of the day. And when you look at City, when you look at Liverpool, you realize, and we're hearing it from Clive and Tim from the stadium, the number of coordinated movements, the understanding, the development in the team that enables that to happen. But there's no other midfield we could drop in here, maybe in the last decade, who can do what Partey's doing. The closest we would have got to is Arteta. Like, he has the skills. Arteta had the skills and ability. What he didn't have was the same level of physicality, is the same ability to cover the pitch that Partey does. I do worry with Clive that we're asking quite a lot of him at the moment. Like, we're asking him to do everything, and he's doing it. I don't know that I want to build a house on that that's the only way we can play, like, because he does get the niggles, and you can't be brilliant all the time. Like, 2 games a week will impact Thomas Partey as well in terms of the stress that's on him. So we need other ways of playing. As Clive pointed out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I want to probe this just a little bit. Lol. To your point, let's say Thomas Partey wasn't available for a game. How do you think Arteta would try to maintain what we're doing without him, or would he be forced to go to more of like a double pivot with Sambi and Chat? Like, do you think we are so reliant that if Partey was out, we would not play this system? Or do you think maybe he'd just give Xhaka this role and put Smith Rowe in the... How do you think we'd handle missing him for a game?
Sambi, Xhaka, double pivot. We won't be quite as front loaded, but like, we think we lose a player in the front line. We just readjust a little bit. Xhaka doesn't push up so much, but Tierney does. And so we go back to a little bit more of a kind of an asymmetry with Tierney going forward on the left, Martinelli tucking in a little bit. It'll just be a little bit of a different look. You wouldn't want to do it for 5-10 games, but for a game or two, it'll be totally fine, I think. I don't. But the only way we can play with this diamond that's Clive referencing, with one guy at the base of it, Thomas Partey, taking all the pressure. Like, as you said, this is against Liverpool. That's the area of the team, of the pitch, that those guys target to force their turnovers. Best playmaker in the world is those turnovers right there. And they got no change out of Thomas Partey. He's brilliant. He's a complete player. We had debates early on about what his role would be. I kind of always saw him sitting deeper, being able.
What's crazy is he's getting to the top of the box and taking shots too, Paul. Like, this is a box-to-box role with no one behind him. It's wild.
Yeah, he has his moments, but he really is the anchor in the midfield. He does sit that little bit deeper, cover it all, handle the pressure. I
think he was our only player in this game that had 2 shots. Am I right in saying maybe? Or one other player may have as well?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I guess there was only 9 shots to go around on both sides.
Both sides, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And maybe a quick point, like, that's really something. We kept Liverpool to 9 shots.
They're second fewest of the season behind only City. And so...
Our shape, and Thomas Partey and those other guys, they're a huge part of us being able to keep that shape. That isn't just the back four. Partey's probably the most important part of us being able to keep that shape.
Yeah. Tim, just a few things I want to pick out from the end of the game and you know, the way it ultimately winds up going. I mean, firstly, their opening goal, it's tough, right? Because there's a defensive lapse there, but it still should be saved, obviously. I mean, I hate that goes in. I hate it for Ramsdale. But I hate it for the team because also I think it was not the best chance that was created by a long shot, you know, but it does come from a little bit of a defensive lapse. And I'm curious how you break down that moment. I think the issue with what Cedric does there is he's sort of he gets wider for no reason. Like he leaves the danger guy alone to just sort of track to a space where there's no one there. But I think part of the reason is Liverpool did make an interesting tweak and started to get Thiago and Henderson, but in that instance, Thiago sort of between the lines, which they weren't doing earlier. And it just pulled us a little bit out of our shape. We didn't deny the pass. We didn't keep an eye on the runner. And then it's a near post, goal that's a little soft. I mean, it's not a calamity, but do you see it sort of as a continuation of the thing with Cedric where, because I thought he had a great first half, where when he's up the pitch, we're really seeing some good stuff from him, but just in terms of some of his defensive positioning and awareness, when we're deeper, that's where he can be exploited, and they did it.
Yeah. Like on that second goal, Saka goes to clear it, and Cedric goes charging off, and in a way you can kind of understand that. The ball breaks to Saka. Saka's in the right back position, and he's thinking, right, okay, that means I've got an offer, an outlet going forward, which he kind of does. But at the same time, it's an incredibly difficult pass or clearance for Saka to pull off there. And I think really what he should have done was maybe given him a bit of an out ball and just kind of kept his skates on and made himself available for the pass. Probably not strictly within the patterns of play that they'd have trained for and things like that. But in that moment, it was just like, okay, Saka's going to have to really go some to get this up the line. So maybe I just stand parallel to him and give him a pass rather than, bomb on and demand that he... not demand, but
expect that he's going to get it pinpoint perfect in a very tight angle up against the touchline.
Yeah, exactly, and that just leaves an empty space, and that creates stress, and that's the thing about that attack. I think a lot of it is just stress, and I think what happens, like Gabriel loses the run of Firmino, and I think what happens is Arsenal get the initial attack clear, the ball runs to Saka, and everyone just relaxes for half a second because I think, okay, right, Saka's going to clear it, but then it gets charged down and there's a little bit of luck there as well in terms of usually when a player charges down like that, it just goes out for a goal kick. So I can kind of understand, it's still not suboptimal, obviously, but I can understand why the defence at first just went, okay, this is clear, take a breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then 9 times out of 10, Robertson charges that down and Arsenal get a goal kick and regroup. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from, because then Gabriel just loses that Firmino run. And I think it's just half a second they all kind of tuned out thinking that the ball was going to go clear and it didn't. So it's a mistake. Like it's a series of small mistakes, definitely, but I do think relatively forgivable within the context of the game. And I do think at that point Liverpool were starting to put the squeeze on, and you did get this feeling that the game was going away from Arsenal. I think there were a lot of psychological ingredients, I think, that led to some of those errors. Yeah,
and I mean, look, there's nothing scarier than playing the ball in tight spaces around your own box. But an interesting stat from FBref that 7 a.m. Kickoff posted is we have the best record of any other team this season in terms of conceded possession after a pressure by the opponent. What that means basically is we don't concede possession when being pressed. We keep, in essence, we keep the ball better than anybody else under pressure. And first of all, what a turnaround from who we've been in previous seasons. But I think that tells you that Arteta has really hammered into these players, keep it on the ground, play it, keep it on the ground, play it. But to be fair, maybe there's a little bit of casualness creeping in there, because there were times that I felt we created some challenges being a little too willing to play the ball under pressure. I mean, Ben White in one case went on one of his little carries, his adventure out from the back and right into 3 Liverpool players and gave it right away. And I'm like, sometimes you can hoof it long, sometimes.
And I think a lot of it was, first of all, I guess just being a bit tired, thinking the ball was going out, but also Saka is probably persuaded, not just by the run of Cedric, but by the fact that Arsenal are 1-0 down.
It's a good point. Got to get up the pitch.
Yeah, that naturally changes the decisions you take sometimes, particularly for a younger player like Saka, where maybe he should have taken a beat, cut infield and just look for a pass and look for a way to pass out. It's, again, they're all most other teams in the world wouldn't have punished that.
Or you kick it off the defender and it goes out for a throw. You know what I mean? Where it bounces back to is just really unlucky as well. Tim, I know we're about to lose you. I just want to ask you a question quickly that I will also pose to Clive, but since I think Clive is going to scowl at me and not answer it, I want to ask it to you first. Because it's a leading question, let's be honest. Smith Rowe comes in for Odegaard, actually. And I thought he played well. I mean, the game was kind of dead. I get it, but I thought he played well. He looked really comfortable in that 8. He dropped in and defended well. He covered the ground well. He created some openings. I thought he looked really dangerous. And the only reason I bring it up is because the 8 role is one of much debate. Maybe not so much the right 8 that he played. I almost wonder if it's very, very intentional that he came on Odegaard and not Xhaka because, no reason for Arteta to give himself a headache. But seeing Smith Rowe play the 8 and do it really, really well, I thought it just, look, I can tiptoe around what I'm trying to say, and I think you understand it, which is it is an area for improvement eventually. I don't want to undermine the work of the player who is doing the left 8 right now because it's important work. But when you watch Smith Rowe in that slot, I'm curious what you thought of his cameo and the idea that maybe that's a position he could play, in the right games in certain situations, maybe just on the other side.
At the moment, it would be my first substitution if we're chasing a goal, quite frankly, at the moment, because everything else is kind of like, and that is, it's not like for like. It doesn't change the system, but it's not like for like. Every other attacking change, like Pepe, who do you bring him on for, Saka or Martinelli? That's kind of like for like. And Nketiah for Lacazette, that's like for like, unless you switch to a 4-4-2 or something, which to be fair, we kind of did against Wolves. But Smith Rowe for Xhaka would be my first substitution in that scenario, and that's actually like a good time to give it a look because you could say, well, actually maybe we could do this more often. And when Smith Rowe played the 10, Odegaard, when he plays it, he kind of stays on the right, but Smith Rowe kind of goes across to both sides. But like I thought he was, when he played in the 10, particularly effective over on the left. I think a lot of, we play inverted wingers, so kind of why not inverted number 8s as well? So you've got like 2 right footers over on the left and 2 left footers over on the right. That strikes me as making some sense as well. I think it's absolutely worth a look. I wouldn't do it from the start yet, unless, I tell you what, if Xhaka picked up a small injury or something, or a suspension, let's say he gets injured in training today and we don't know about it and we're playing Villa on Saturday, I wouldn't complain at all if the decision was right. Instead of doing, changing everything we're doing in midfield, like what Paul was talking about, double pivot plus Odegaard ahead of them, let's just keep rolling with this and play Smith Rowe in the 8. I wouldn't complain about that at all, but I wouldn't necessarily drop Xhaka to do it yet. I don't think we're at that stage. I think we look at this from the bench and we start to make a decision from there.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think I've said this before. It is really, really hard to say we should be changing anything at a time when we are playing so well and it is working. And it is easy to get individual focused and think that individual can be better and miss the fact that if the team is playing this well, do you really believe that taking an individual out who's a part of that is going to improve you? That may be the wrong way to think about it. So I am admittedly torn on that idea because I think that there's still levels up we can go and need to go. Of course, it should be an effort to improve. Look, mostly, let's do this. Let's let Tim go, and we'll finish off with some thoughts on the substitutions and a look ahead to Villa. But Tim's on Twitter. Thanks, Tim.
My pleasure as always.
Clive, I thought there was a good balance of, not giving up the game. I don't think we gave up the game, but keeping an eye towards the weekend in the way we approach the substitutions. I thought, first of all, it was great to get a look at Smith Rowe in that 8 because I think it's a position he can play, but also getting Odegaard off, getting Saka off. I thought those in particular were important. And Lacazette, who, love him or hate him, is vital to what we're doing and someone who also could face fatigue. The scary thing was there was a straight leg challenge from Thiago that went unpunished, and in absolutely typical fashion, because God forbid we, potentially do anything to disrupt Liverpool in their attempt to make a title race for TV. They didn't even give us a replay of it on TV. We never saw it again.
Oh,
wow. But you know what? Partey seemed a little unwell after that. And again, I don't think it was an impact injury. It looked either like cramp or a strain. Now, I haven't heard anything since then, so I don't know. And I'm just going to cross my fingers and toes and all that there's nothing there and we won't be hearing about it from Arteta in the next day or so. But I thought this was a great example, bringing on good players, still going for the game, but having a sensible approach to thinking about the weekend.
Yeah, I thought we got it right. The two, Odegaard and Saka, were sort of boshed by a combination of Robertson and Thiago, And we didn't have the centre forward to really stress them in that space. And that's the truth of it. Your discussions around Smith Rowe, I'm listening to you thinking, yeah, you know what? I think he can be an interior. But he can only be an interior if our centre forward is one of those. It's like a party, if you know what I mean. Someone does 1.5 jobs. We need a 1.5 job centre forward, not somebody doing 3/4 of a job really, really well for the benefit of the team. And the rest of the team are taking up his goal scoring mantle and his threat. He's a centre forward that can do all of the jobs and have all of the size and physicality and speed that makes the jobs of the 8s and the inverted wide men stroke wing forwards. It makes their jobs really easy because of the absolute threat of the number 9. So when people are thinking about these, well, which I do all the time, thinking about the next phase of Arsenal, I'm more convinced now that it's not a smaller false 9 player. It's a taller, stronger, faster player that enables some of our technical ball carriers, ball manipulators, sprinters with agility that we have, that we are invested in. Those 4 fabulous players that we know, they are of a certain build, of a certain construct, and we need to enable them by giving them something else. I think that's really important. That's how you build careers. You don't do too many of the same thing because you just can't sustain people. On a certain day, you don't have the skill sets that you need. So going back to the original question, I think we did this right. It's nice for once to have a big game and not get someone sent off and have a 3-game ban. Do you know what I mean? It's really nice. Yeah. And there was some fatigue out there for us, and there was some mental exhaustion as well. And going back to the point earlier about Tim talking to Jonathan Northcroft online, and I helped him on that little discussion. And it does disturb me.
I love that you're calling that a discussion.
Yeah, it's a discussion. I want people to, but Jonathan's brilliant, right? So the reason why we spoke to him was, I want you to write this down. It's not the amount of games you played over a year. It's the gap between the games. There is no need to do a Wednesday night and then Saturday morning. There's just no need for it. There's room in the calendar to even make that Saturday night or Sunday. Just do it, And it's happening again between Chelsea and Manchester United. And this is a problem. And people say, but Clive, we haven't played this many games in January. It's not the gap year to year or month to month, not how many games. It's the gap between games. Recovery. Think about recovery. You need time to recover. There's between major events. You need time to recover. And that's what's been reduced. And that's the challenge for us. And yeah, maybe next year when we are back in Europe and we have a squad that can do a bit like Liverpool's, we can do a little bit better and we can change games. And this is, I don't go back to my 5-sub argument, but I think it's a big part of this. If you want to have this type of schedule, fine. But give people 5 subs, they can plan for it, And but we don't do that neither, right? We just want to see people twang and break their legs. So that's just me going off tangent a little bit. But I thought we managed the game appropriately.
I don't think it's off tangent because I think it's important, because I think there have been times that I, on this very podcast, have asked about Arteta's ability to manage the load and rotate and things like that. And this season, he hasn't had to do as much of it because the fixtures haven't been that congested. And I thought that this was sensible, Clive. I thought this was good, sensible decision-making. And by the way, you're not bringing on bums either. You know what I mean?
No, you're not. And I think sometimes when you're building a team, if I was to build a team of the 11 most talented footballers, then Smith Rowe plays and probably Pepe plays. If I'm honest with you, put Tomiyasu in there, that would be my team. Based on pure talent, I'd move them around. They, for me, are the 11 most talented footballers that we have. We can name the others. But there's more that makes a team, right? And I'm afraid some of the glue guys there that we need, that on occasions against the Liverpool and Man Cities and maybe Chelsea, we find the gaps and we find where the extremities lie in our talent. Do you know what I mean? We can see the edges, you can see the cracks, you can just see the limits a little bit more clearly that none of us are talking about against Watford and what was the other game? Sorry, I missed it. Well, against Watford, Leicester. Mm-hmm. None of us would talk about them extensively. We would talk about it in a nice way. Wouldn't it be nice to make a change there? But now we're thinking, okay, we need to do this. we do need to do this at some point because the next step is clearly staring us in the face.
Yeah. Paul, you want to add?
Yeah, I'll keep it short because it's kind of in the feelies area, and I know that frustrates some people. But looking at Arteta over the last few months as we've suddenly become good after the big click for me at Southampton, that run of relative success to this point, I think has been brilliant for him. He's had a brilliant season in many ways through the tough times and as things pick up. And I just think the kind of the challenges early on and then this period where things are beginning to click and work right, I just think he's changed and grown. Like it was a change and a growth that was ready to happen in him. But when I look at somebody like Klopp, the reason Klopp is brilliant is not just because he's super smart tactically or he's really good at engineering a team and a structure. He's got all of that, but he's super smart in game situations, in and around the build-up to games, in between games, managing a run of games, managing a season. And that's something that Arteta had only done theoretically, only done third person, watching Pep, watching Arsene.
That's a great point, yeah.
And now he's living it. And his first season and a half, he probably felt he had imposter syndrome, right? Because he was doing all the things he thought one should do, but that's not the same as the things you should do. You got to be able to feel it. You got to be super smart, but you got to live it and feel it. And I just think it's clicked for him too now. And how he handles himself in press conferences and how he answers questions that come at him that he's not expecting. And he just knows the answer now because I just think he's grounded, right? He's not impersonating a manager anymore. I always thought he'd be good. I just didn't know for sure it would happen while he was at Arsenal. And all my concerns are now basically gone. He's the fucking man. He has a feel for this. He has a feel for Arsenal. He has a feel for this team. He has a plan. He was always smart. He was smart at Arsenal. He was Pep's right-hand man. And a lot of the time, Pep spent obsessing about how Liverpool play and how they work. And those are the two teams we're looking to emulate and to beat along the way. And we've got the right man. I suspect his last days... Remember Vinay showing up at Arteta's house at 1 a.m. for that booty call to recruit him? I suspect the last thing that Arteta's been doing in the years he didn't get the job, or it was 2018, 2019, he had his near Arsenal experience. I suspect he spent 2 or 3 years photocopying everything in Man City's offices, knowing that there was a great chance this would come again. He probably gulped heavily when he didn't get the job with, thank God I wasn't ready.
Or the club wasn't ready, to be fair.
Or the club wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And now he's had a year and a half of lessons, but it's clicked for him. You just feel he's ready now, and he's living it, and he's making better decisions on the sideline, in game, in press conferences, building this season. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why I think, I'm not worried about losing Arteta, for the record, because I think, certain situations just fit certain people in certain moments. Do you think Unai Emery is happier where he is right now?
Yep.
I bet he is. That's a good fit. Aubameyang, Arteta, so it's all good. Clive, so we have Villa this weekend, but one thing that's interesting, Gabriel Martinelli has been called up to the Brazil national team. The Gareth Southgate's team for the international break has just been announced, and White is in it, Ramsdale's in it, Smith Rowe is in it, Saka's in it. I think it's important to these players. They want to be in their national teams. And when you're at a club where you're getting to play and you're getting to thrive and you're getting called up and you're getting, I think that helps the project. Ordinarily, I'm one who's like, I don't want our players in the national teams because I want them to rest. But for these young players, don't you think it strengthens Arsenal as a destination when players can look around and be like, wow, the stocks are rising on players who play at Arsenal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I knew this was coming, actually. I was going to raise this a little while ago about the international break, and I was worried about certain call-outs, and I had a word in myself. I said, no, you shouldn't be worried.
That's my job.
You shouldn't be worried. And I'm just hoping they're two friendlies, right? So hopefully you get a little bit of football. You're in a different environment. You get a mental refresh. The St George's Park environment is absolutely fantastic, and Southgate's done a great job there developing that club environment. Everyone wants to go. No one turns it down. And so, yeah, this is a good thing. And my mantra: I want Arsenal to be the place to be. And we got a young Manchester United forward that's not in the squad, just lost himself at the moment. That would fit our club quite nicely, in my opinion. And if he found his game again, and you want people to say, "What's happening at Arsenal?" Is that I want some of these young, bright players to be in our club, and that is the place where it all happens. That's how Ramsdale eventually ended up at Arsenal, because there was a character reference coming from him from the England squad, right? So that's how these things work, like it does in all our jobs. We recommend people, we know somebody, and you give someone a leg up, and they got to get through the process. But hey, having your word that stands for that person helps, right? And every job I've ever had has come through somebody introduced me to somebody else, right? And that's how it works. And so our players are in the top room now, and more to, and I think more will happen. Even Cedric's got back in the Portuguese squad, so that's great for him. He's 29, is he? 29, 30? He's back in the Portuguese squad because he's playing top level football, and that's really good. I just want more of it to happen, really, and then people will see Arsenal as a place they want to be and where their careers can grow. You don't come to Arsenal to earn money and die quietly. There's been many a time in international breaks when basically, mate, the whole squad's been at home. You do a training videos, there's 40 players in there. Do you know what I mean? Like one player, one 19-year-old has gone away with England. That's it. Right? And that was only the other day. So yeah, things are on the up. That comes back down to recruitment and getting people out the building. And that is the right way to go. However, I will say, we just lost a game. And yeah, we know the rules. We know where the gaps are. But there is a danger lurking. I'll put it in the chat. There's a danger lurking, for people that think we should have invested more in January. There is a danger lurking. There are some compressed weeks of fixtures. We're talking about potential injury that we know nothing about. We're not. Please, people, don't start scrolling your Twitter now. We don't know for sure, but a couple of injuries, and we are in a situation where there's danger around the corner, right? And that trust, I love where we're heading, but that absolute trust isn't there for everybody. It isn't there. And I just want it to work out for them so much, because I think this team deserves it. I think we're a better team than Spurs, better than Manchester United. I think we've got more about us than West Ham and Wolves. West Ham are distracted slightly, and Wolves just make too many errors for me. So I think we are the best team. But being the best team, you still need to have all of those intangibles in place, all of the mentality in place, all the right messaging in place, all the right acceptance of your roles and responsibility. And some of the things that Thomas Partey showed last night under the highest pressure, that's exactly what we need more of. People that can step and stretch to the occasion and execute. And there is none of us, despite our positivity and for some people surprise of where we are, there is none of us in recent 5 years that can say we're going to cross this line. Because we don't know, and they don't know. We can only support, we can only hope, we can only overanalyze. That's what we do. But that's all we can do. And I think that's a big reason why the atmosphere, the ground is so good. I think people know their role now. They know that we are needed. It could come down to the 5%. I think that's a big reason why it's all clicking.
Yeah, I mean, look, I enjoy watching this Arsenal do what it does. And whether that means it wins or it loses or it draws, liking what we're doing and believing that we're doing the right things means that I can enjoy the direction we're moving. For a long time, I didn't trust what Arsenal was doing in the market. I didn't trust what Arsenal was doing on the pitch. And so whether we won, lost, or draw, there was this sense that it might be a one-off if we won or a continuation of bad trends if we lost. Right now, win, lose, or draw, I trust what we're doing in such a way that I look forward to the next time that we get on the pitch. I look forward to the next moves we make in the market because I have a greater degree of trust. To your point about danger on the horizon, look, this weekend is crucial. Villa away, I mean, that's a hard game. I'm looking at our fixture list. I see 3 games between now and the end of the season that I would say are comfortable, maybe 4. But Palace away and Chelsea away and Spurs away and West Ham away and now even Newcastle away and United at home, all of those games are tricky. I mean, Palace just held City, like there's no easy games in the Premier League period, but we've got nothing but tricky fixtures with a few exceptions left. So we have to really believe in what we're doing. But, and I said this on the instant reaction, I think this is really an important point. Of course, I think it is. We play like we did against Liverpool. These games are not going to be an issue. And Paul, as a final thought, like when we played against City, I felt that even though we lost, and even though it felt like it was taken from us, what we saw against City is a team that can go beat anyone. The problem is we never got to see that put into play right away because we had the weird FA Cup tie, the 2 weird League Cup ties, no midfielders against Burnley, and then we go to Dubai. And when we came back, I think we saw the continuation of what we'd seen against City. But unlike that game, now we get to go out on Saturday and show, sooner than Arteta would like, to be fair, that what we did against Liverpool is a level that can't be, that other teams can't live with. So we will get to see, is that level we had against Liverpool truly as good as we think? And we're going to get to see it real quick.
Yeah, I think that's right. Except that important bit a little too soon. Like, we could actually look back on this and think, was that somewhat underwhelming performance because the guys were shagged out? Or are we not quite as good as we think? So, unfortunately, I think we got slightly screwed here. Hopefully it won't matter. Hopefully we show up. Would
you rotate? Would you rotate in a Pepe or a Smith Rowe?
Not unless there's something I don't know. I wouldn't rotate, no. Okay. You can make it harder for the team by rotating somebody new in. Like, it's all working. One of the things that allows you to not be as tired is, oh, look, it's Saka on your right. It's Odegaard. It's Martin. Like, everybody knows how this works right now. So I think you keep doing what you're doing till it doesn't work. So we just go again on Saturday. That's how it is. So it's a little nerve-wracking, though not as nerve-wracking as reading in the chat while we're having a nice happy chat about players making the England squad. A message from Clive that says, "Danger lurks." That's genuinely terrifying.
I'd use that as the title of the pod, except that's way too dark for a pod that I think has been mostly upbeat. But I look, danger only lurks if we can't sustain what we've been doing, and I think we can. Let's leave it there. Hey, Clive.
Yes.
I would meet you for a date to rewatch that first half if you wanted tomorrow.
Yeah, I got things to say, mate. Trust me.
Oh, good.
I got good for you.
I didn't realize you had things to say, but now that I know that, we're definitely on. Okay, let's get that first half rewatch tomorrow for patrons. Let's get the instant reaction to our big win on Saturday, and on and on and on and up and up. And congrats to the Arsenal players named to their national teams. Let's leave it there. Paul's on Twitter. Pause with my pants. Thanks, pause.
Danger lurks.
Woohoo! Clive's on Twitter at ClivePFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Getting to the point now where I do the better woohoos. Maybe it'll make it my thing. What you don't want, look, you come on the instant reaction pod and Scott's on it, turn your volume down before his yeehaw. That's all I'm going to say. Jeez, that guy comes in hot. All right, thanks everyone. We love you so much. Really, really do. Thank you for being here. The best community out there, and you're the reason why. So we love you. We will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Villanova.